Okay, life's full of all kinds of weird phrases that make sense or don't make sense, and one I know you've heard is there are two things that are two certainties in life, right? What are they? Death and taxes, right? And one thing I've figured out, though, is you can't avoid them, but you can kind of slip past them a little bit. You can prolong death a little bit more just by taking your vitamins, eating better, getting more rest, not abusing your body. So you can prolong it a bit sometimes. You can also avoid taxes illegally, but also legally. You know, you can find some loopholes. You can take care of your tax credits, right, Jeff? Jeff does it the right way, not the greasy way. Yeah, I got your back here, okay? But there are ways to get around it. But there's one thing I can add to the list. I promise you there's no getting around. And that's change. You will change. Change is going to happen. You cannot prolong change to get around it. You cannot find a loophole through it. Change is going to happen. And change is going to affect every single one of us. From the moment you're born, you start changing, right? You come out of the womb, you start using these eyes that you never had to use. They start to focus. You used to eat through umbilical cord. Now you eat through the mouth. You start out when you're born, you're moving like that, and then you start wobbling, and then you start walking, then running, then you're driving. And when you get older, it kind of works backwards. You go from driving to running slower and walking and then wobbling and then, you can't, it works the other way around. But you're always changing. And when you get to be an adult, there's a lot of years there. And a lot of stories and a lot of different ways we change. I sent an email out this week asking people just email, tell me what change is going on in your life right now. And for all that were sent to me, I know there's countless more changes. There's good change and there's bad change. Change that you want to have happen, change that you wanted nothing to do with. Some of you are choosing retirement, but because you want to, but there's still some nervousness about what it looks like. Some of you are just getting a new job. That's a good change, though there's some strain involved. Some of you didn't see some of these things coming. Some of you are navigating life right now after a divorce, figuring out how to deal with your kids and your ex-spouse. Some of you have children that have been going through a divorce. Some of you are trying to figure out how to walk through the life of your child who's just in and out of addiction. It's driving you crazy. I know someone here whose child is getting out of prison this week. That's a whole nother story to be written, and a lot of change going to happen in her life and the life of the child of this guy getting out of prison. Some of you your health is starting to fail, and you're starting to ask yourself, what can I do? What can't I do? What's my purpose? Because I can't do what I used to do. And in some of you, there are these spiritual changes that are happening. You've heard God speak. And you've taken some risks, and you're seeing what God is up to. And that's causing a whole different level of change in your life and in those around you. And that's the other part of this too, is that as we see changes going on, there's some you can prepare for. There's some that just kind of hit you blindside. And you got your choice. You can either prepare for change, or you can embrace change when it happens. Good or bad, it's going to happen. And how the story of your life is written is going to have a lot to do with how you deal with this change. Your life will, in part, be defined by the new normal you find after the change. It's going to happen. Change is going to happen, and your life will be defined in part of what this new normal is going to look like. I will say, side note, if some things you can't control, but if God's asking you to go after a change, don't mess around. Just go for it. It may not make sense in the moment, maybe scary in the moment, but I promise you, like Rachel talked about, you look in the rearview mirror at what God did and what you followed 5-10 years ago, I promise you, it'll be exactly what you would have longed for had you known how it was going to turn out. Now, we all agree change happens, right? Did I put you to sleep already? My word. Can we all agree change happens, right? Okay. Can we all agree on something else? That change causes stress. Yes, we can. Much better. You're awake again. Now, I'm not just talking to you control freaks now. who change happens, now your schedule's all messed up. I'm talking anybody here. Any kind of change is going to cause some stress. There is always stress when your normal gets messed with. And the levels of stress differs on each person based upon what change happens, based upon your temperament, based upon your past and your experiences with that kind of stress and your different and your experiences dealing with that certain kind of change. Even in my home, how we deal with blood differs from person to person. When my wife cuts her finger in the kitchen, and sees blood, she reaches for a towel and stops the clotting. When I see myself cut myself and there's blood, I reach for my wife to stop me from falling on the ground while she grabs a towel and starts the clotting process while I try not to pass out. That's legit. It happens for whatever reason. I know it's genetic. My dad has been refused. He cannot give blood because he's always passed out. I think it's a gift, I think. So depending on who you are and the level of change and your past, that dictates the type of stress you experience. There are also different kinds of stressors in different areas of your life. You can go through an emotional stress, like grief when you lose a parent. You go through mental stress when you get a new job, because when you get a new job, you have to deal with a new boss and maybe a new manual and new expectations and new schedule, which means you also have to take that schedule home and navigate the schedule with your spouse and your kids and their events. So there is a mental stress that takes place. There's also sometimes physical stresses. When I broke my finger, it's still broken. I just didn't wear it today because I'm too manly to wear it. And that's when I shake your hand. It's like a dead fish shake. I'm still a little nervous about it. But when you break your finger, there's a physical change. You got to figure out how to hit that enter key, that return key, using your ring finger instead of using your pinky finger, because it's not happening anymore. There's physical change. There's also spiritual changes. When the God you thought you knew, or you presume God was a certain way, and then it starts appearing like he's acting different. And spiritually starts to mess with your heart and your mind and your soul and your strength. All different areas of change. Now listen, today is not about you dealing with change. That may be for another week, but there's a different layer to the change that takes place, because when you change, you're not the only one who is changing. We're looking at John 19, 25 to 27. I'll give you a second. I'm going to pull it out in your Bible, on your Bible app. It'll be on the screen behind. I encourage you, pull it up and then read it later on this week. John 19, 25 to 27. Near the cross of Jesus, let's stop for a minute real quick. You ever wonder if your Jesus, if your Christ understands you? Here's this good story of that. Jesus has experienced incredible levels of change in the last 2 days when this passage is referring to. Just not a week ago, he's freely walking the countryside with hundreds, if not thousands, of people following him, wanting to hear what he will say or see what he will do next. He had a load of friends. He was walking on water. He was raising the dead. He was healing the blind. And in the matter of just the last few days, everything is changing. He's lost his friends who all bailed on him when he was in the Garden of Gethsemane, where he lost his freedom, where he was arrested and changed and taken to prison and was put on trial. He lost his reputation, as when he was on trial, people lied about what he said and what he did and who he was. And finally, he lost his dignity when he was beaten to the place where he was almost unrecognizable, led out into the street, nailed to a cross, and hung to die almost naked. Jesus is going through an intense amount of change, an intense amount of emotional, physical, mental, and spiritual change in this moment. And there's where the story takes place. Here we go, going on. Near the cross of Jesus stood his mother's sister, Mary, the wife of Clopas, and Mary Magdalene. When Jesus saw his mother there and the disciple whom he loved standing nearby, he said to her, "Woman, here is your son." And to the disciple, and this would have been John who's writing this book, and to the disciple, "Here is your mother." From that time on, this disciple took her into his home. During the summer months when I was, during grade school, probably once a week, I would get on my bike and ride uptown and play pool with my grandmother. This would be my 70-some-year-old Mennonite covering-wearing, dress-wearing grandma. We would go down to the basement and play pool. Man, she fleeced me for so much money. I'm kidding. We never bet on anything. We really would. Grandpa would be upstairs. We'd go downstairs and play several games of pool. On the way up on my bike, I would always pass a pond, though. And there was rarely a time where I would not stop and address the pond. I'd find rocks. And depending on what rock it was, it dictated what I would do with that rock. If it was a rather large rock or brick laying by the road, I'd take it and throw it as high as I can and see what the biggest splash it could cause. If it was a smaller rock, baseball size, a little bit smaller, I'd see how far I could throw it. And if I found a flat rock, you know what I did, right? Yeah, I'd see how many times I could skip it across the water. Now, when I arrived at the water, it was usually pretty calm. Maybe a few ripples because of the breeze flowing through the wind that was coming through the forest. But by the time I was done, it was different. Whether it was a big rock I was throwing high, a small rock I was throwing far, a little rock I was skipping, wherever that water got hit by that rock, everything changed. And not just in the place where the rock landed, right? Everything around it with that ripple effect changed as well, especially the places right beside where the rock landed. They experienced the most significant amount of change because of that rock hitting that spot in the pond. You are going to go through change. Jesus was going through change, but not far from where he was on the cross was someone else who was going through a great deal of change, and that's his mom. Jesus wasn't the only one changing. His mom was changing with him. Because of him. When I go through change, when I get sick, when my job changes, when someone hurts me, when I'm trying to sort through things where my faith or my finance or my family is changing, I'm not the only one who feels the brunt of that change. Those close to me also experience change. When my normal gets changed, the normal of the people around me gets changed as well, because to them, I'm part of their normal. Hear me? You are someone's normal. Now, some of you just got really excited. Did you hear that? Bo says I'm normal. I saw a bunch of men. You see that? Bo says I'm normal. I didn't say that. I can't lie from the stage here. I'd be lying to say you're normal, because I know some of you, John, who aren't exactly normal, and I'd be lying. Yeah, I'm trying not to look at some people right now I know are so far from normal. What I did say is you are someone's normal. As perfect as you think you are, or as imperfectly perfect as you know you are somebody's normal. And when you change, so does their normal. You had a workaholic dad. Not saying that's a good thing. He was the one who woke up before you woke up, got back home after you're done with dinner, but rarely made it to a concert of yours. That's not necessarily good, but that was your normal. If you had a mom, had a different man home every weekend, not saying that's good, but that might have been your normal. Had a grandma and grandpa, never missed a game, never missed a concert, never missed an event. That's probably good. And either way, that's your normal. So is the uncle. You know where I'm going. Who did stuff. That's your normal. And as erratic as your dad was, didn't know if you're going to have the drunk, angry dad when you came home or the calm, gentle father you long for at home, that inconsistency, that was still your normal. Regardless of the good or the bad of the normal, anytime it gets messed with, your normal gets messed with as well. Like I said, when a child is born, change happens right away. They go from to wobbling to walking. And as a parent, when they start walking, you have to start changing. You got to start getting locks on things. Got to start getting that little barrier that goes above the stairs. You need child safety locks. Or else you'll get a call in the middle of the day like my wife did. Do you know your 3-year-old's walking on your roof right now? We had child safety locks. The worst ever. Because 3-year-old Bryson just ripped right through and crawled out on the roof. Now he got back in before he saw it. We got people, we know. So we had to change because he had changed. So we got new safety locks. They were called screws. I'm looking at my fire code guy over here. We had to make a choice, John. It was either go on the roof and break your neck falling off the roof or fire. We chose to protect him from breaking his neck off the roof. Now, in our house now, we have good safety locks that no kid has crawled on the roof yet that we're aware of. But when people change, when their normal changes, it affects your normal. There's a ripple effect, especially those of you who are the closest to the situation. And this is where it gets really difficult for you if you are a parent or a spouse, or you're a child caring for a parent. You're an older child, a young adult who has relationships with parents. When you are in place as a caregiver, and you know you're going through a change, your normal just got messed with. And you know the people around you, closest to, the ones you're responsible for, the one you might have taken a vow to help, they're going through change too because your messed up normal has now messed up your normal. What's your responsibility with them? How can I help them find normal if I can't figure out what my normal is right now? How do I help them with my divorce if I still can't feel after my husband left me? How can I help my child deal with the loss of grandma if I still don't know how I feel and haven't grieved through that loss? How do I help my husband deal with this cancer if I'm still dealing with the new normal of what's going to be like if I lose him? You know you want to help, but where's it going to come from? How do I help someone I love find their normal if I don't know what mine is yet? Jesus is hurting, he's bleeding, he's dying, and 50 feet from him is mom, hurting, dying inside as her oldest son is losing it all. Everything's changing. And everything inside her and around her is changing. And in that moment, somehow, Jesus is still able to look at his mom and reach out and say to her, woman, mom, here's your son. And to the disciple, here is your mother. From that time on, the disciple took her into his home. Luke 2 is the last time we ever have mention of Jesus' dad, Joseph, when Jesus would have been 12 years old. It's the last time we hear about him. This is 20-some years later. What happened to his dad? They were either estranged or more than likely, Joseph died. And culturally, it is the oldest son's responsibility to care for the mother, the widowed mother, to take her into his home. Now, Jesus knows that's his responsibility. Not only physically can he not go help her anymore, but now there's an inner turmoil taking place inside of him. He wants to take care of her normal. But the sheer fact that Jesus, in this, once again, very human moment, can help his mom on the journey of finding her new normal without him, sheds light on the fact that we don't need normal to help others find theirs. Yeah, that sounds easy to say. The real question is how? We'll look at Jesus again as he's in this place of trying to find his new normal. In the last day and a half, Jesus is in the midst of incredible turmoil. He's praying in the garden, and one minute he's praying, Father, take this cup from me. In other words, I don't want to go through this. I know I need to die to save the world, but I don't want to do this. And a minute later, he's saying, not my will, yours be done. He's hanging on the cross. And while he's hanging on the cross, on one minute he's saying to another criminal beside him who asked for forgiveness, he said, surely today you'll be with me in paradise. He recognizes I'm going to be in heaven in just a few minutes. But not long after that, he's saying, my God, why have you forsaken me? And yet, with his last breath, he says, into your hands I commit my spirit. You have this inward spiritual turmoil of the Son of God himself. And in the midst of that turmoil, he's taking care of his mom. You can't sacrifice, this is the start, you can't sacrifice your normal for the normal of those you're caring for. I know some of you are bleeding hearts. Some of you hate to see people you care for go through pain. I'm one of you. I got a martyr complex. I'd rather take the heat and take the hurt than my kids or my wife or those close to me hurt. So when this happens, what do? We shelve our finding new normal, or really our new normal journey gets hijacked. We want to see them through the process of finding their new normal, and once they're comfortable with their new normal, I'll go find mine. Here's the problem with that, people. It's hard enough finding your new normal now. You put it on the shelf and deal with it later, you're adding to the baggage. It's going to be increasingly difficult. If that's not enough for you, you martyr, you bleeding heart like me, if you care enough about your people you're walking with, take care of your normal now. Because if you wait several years to find your new normal, in order to help your child, your husband, your mother, your father, to find their new normal, once they found their new normal, you to them, their normal was mom, dad, spouse, and flux. That's the normal of you that they have in their life. Then in 5-10 years, you say, okay, I'm ready to find my new normal. Guess what happens? You've changed. Guess what happens to them? They have to change again. You helped them find a new normal that you knew wasn't going to last. So now, because you decided 5-10 years later, for their good, to wait on finding your new normal, you've given them a false normal for 5-10 years, and now you found it all over again, and they got to start the process all over again because another change has taken place in your life. The rock has hit your waters, and is causing a ripple effect now around them again. You have to go through your journey, at the same time helping them along their journey. This is so fascinating. This is the one point that I can remember in this whole biblical narrative of Jesus where he can't do something. Jesus realizes he is limited. Because while he's hanging up there, and knowing he's going to die in a few minutes, in a few hours, he was just several hours on the cross, he knew he could not walk his mom through the journey of finding normal. Couldn't. He wasn't going to be there. So knowing he couldn't fully walk his mom through the process of finding normal, he leans on the resource of others. He leans on the resource of others in his life, in her life, to help her through the process of finding normal while he's finding his normal. Listen, if you have someone near you, you know you're going through some junk and they need to help find normal, and like, I have no others. They have no friends. They have no others. Simple, hard answer is start working at it. Start bringing people into your spouse's life. Start bringing people into your children's life to help them find this resource of others that God has given you through the church to help them through this journey. Listen, this is a great time to promo youth ministry. Parents, I got 4 kids going through school. I know how hard it is to get your kids to youth group. I know how hard it is to bring them to youth group on a Wednesday night or a Sunday night, knowing once they're done, they're going to stay up another 2 or 3 hours to finish homework. And I know I'd rather go to bed. I know how hard it is to come home from a day of work, only to feel like you're horking down dinner to turn around and get them to a youth group, and you live 10, 20, 30 minutes away. Do I even go home at all? Do I just go shopping? Only to pick them up and bring them home. That's a lot of work. But you're going to change. You already agreed with me. It's going to happen. And you're going to have to navigate finding your new normal, and you're going to have to help navigate your children find new normal, but you're going to have places that you can't do it. Why not get this youth pastor, Pastor Chuck that we have, why not get these youth sponsors, other kids in their lives that will help your child navigate new normal when you're struggling to find yours? The investment in the moment is difficult. The payoff, far worth it. Same works for the kids zone down here. With DW Kids, getting him here one Sunday a month to hang out with Pastor Dylan and other small group leaders, that's not enough. 3 or 4 times a month actually gives you a chance to build those relationships with them. So when your world is falling, when that rock hits your waters and it ripples their lives too, you will have people that they can turn to when you just don't got enough for them. That means getting up every Sunday morning. That's hard. It's a hard investment, but it is worth it. It means getting your parents to prime timers now, building those relationships now. It means allowing and encouraging your husband to get into a small group and join the softball team, get those relationships started. It means getting your wife to go out with the ladies some nights, even if it means you have to change your kid's diaper and deal with their vomit all night. That's hard, especially when you're tired. Tough investment. Payoff is going to be worth it because you know you're going to change. You know you're going to have to find your new normal, and you're going to be places where you're going to have a hard time helping those you care about find theirs. So get the resources set up around you for them to lean on and you to pull in when you know things are changing, whether it's a planned change or not. One last angle I want to throw in here, one last thought. Let them close to your struggle, but not too close. Mary was about 50 feet away from the cross. She wasn't on the cross. Mary saw what Jesus was going through. She heard some of the words, no doubt, of his torment and struggle internally. But that was not her struggle. That wasn't her cross. It'll be hard enough for those you love to find their new normal without you having them help you find your new normal in the process. That's not their job. You make it their job. You're hijacking their journey to find a new normal for the sake of yours. And it's going to work the opposite way we just talked about. Then they're going to have to go find a new normal again, and that'll cause your life to change as well. But remember, bring them close still. Let them see your struggle without making it their struggle. Let them see your mental, emotional, physical, and spiritual battles from a distance, because when they see you battle and when they see you get through the battle, they're going to change someday. They're going to want to know, how do I navigate this change? But if your husband, your wife, your parents, your kids are close enough to watch you journey through this, the chance of them successfully navigating to a new normal, regardless of what rock hits their life, the chances of success increases substantially, because they've seen how you have allowed God to work in and through and with you. Come on, isn't that what you want for your kids, for your husband, for your grandkids, for your parents, those who know Jesus now and those you're still praying know Jesus someday? Let them close. Not too close, because it's your battle. It's your normal, not theirs. Change will happen? Yes. You're not normal, but you are somebody's normal. And when change rocks your life, it will rock those around you, especially those closest to you. But if there's anything hopeful from this short time that we shared, it's this. The God who is your normal, He's the God that is the same yesterday, today, and forever. He doesn't change. It may look like He changes. That's because your perception was off, not Him. And as you walk through the new normal with your God, and you find out what really is normal for Him, perfect, unfailing, forgiving love, you will find that as your understanding of Him grows, as your relationship with Him deepens, you will find the strength you need to fight through finding new normal, and the strength you need to hang with those you love as they find theirs. That's good stuff. That's my Jesus.